Yo, what is going on, guys? Episode 94 of many. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a loyal fan. And if this is your first time listening, go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4 of the Grizzly Life Podcast. That is going to give you guys some information on how I started, how I got to where I am today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colton Burt. I am 27 years old. We've got quite a few pieces of real estate now. I think we've got 5 total as of this recording. We have a couple more projects in the works, which I will tell you about when I have more details. I don't want to tell you too much. We have 7 gym locations now, 5 Grizzly locations. Our 6th location is Grizzly O-Town, which is our special guest today. And we've got a 7th location now down in Baraboo, which is a PT-only studio that we're trying out. We also have Priority Fitness, which is a fitness equipment install, moving company, extractions, servicing, all of that. So we travel the state of Wisconsin, sometimes the Midwest, wherever really, if the money makes sense. We will show up, we will install a brand new gym, we'll buy out a gym, we will reorganize the gym, we'll fix the gym, whatever it takes, Priority Fitness can do it. That is a little bit about me and the businesses that we operate. Today, we've got a very special guest by the name of Jacob Colburn. He is my business partner in the Oshkosh Grizzly location, formerly O-Town Iron, still goes by O-Town Iron. We are working on some stuff there, but I've been meaning to have Jacob on. I finally got him in front of the camera. It was one of those things that, he didn't know if he should, if he shouldn't, or whatever, So I just kind of like, hey man, let's just have a conversation on the podcast, or let's just have a conversation. And if it's a good conversation, let's make it a podcast episode. So today I took the time to interview him, get to know more about his story and his background. There's things that I learned after interviewing him. So I'm very excited to get this episode in front of you guys. I want you to understand how Oshkosh and O-Town Iron fits into Grizzly and how it all works. Like I said, Oshkosh is O-Town Iron is kind of its own thing, but we're working on bringing it and working in with Grizzly and making it all make sense. So anyways, without further ado, listen to today's episode. I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys learn something. And if you could, please share this episode with anybody that you think would get value from it. Any other Grizzly gym member that maybe that would be like, hey, this is how the Oshkosh gym started. You should listen to this episode. I would really appreciate you guys kind of, again, spreading the word and helping me out. So anyways, thank you guys and enjoy today's episode. All right, Mr. Jacob. So how are you doing? You doing good?
Good. I feel great now. I came down with cold earlier this week that everybody in Wisconsin seems to be getting, but I feel great now.
Good stuff. I'm glad you're doing better. And what do you got going on this weekend?
We got our gym holiday party tonight, so that should be fun. But besides that, not much. Maybe we could do a little ice fishing or something. What about you?
I'm probably going to be... I've got boxing tomorrow. I don't know if I told you, but I took up boxing lessons. So me and G, my sister too, but she's busy last weekend and the next couple weekends. But the 3 of us, we go down to Madison area now, and we're doing some boxing sessions Saturday morning, which is pretty fun, just like a private lesson with a guy. And I went down there because my brother did some sessions with him a while back, and so it was just we already knew who he was. So we're like, fuck it, let's do it. So yeah, it's one of my goals this year is new skills, learn new things,
Are you gonna spar, compete at some point, or you just do it more so for the workout?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm doing it for the workout. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily doing it to spar, but I mean, I'd like to be more lethal. I'd like to know how to fight with my hands. I've got a wrestling background. I know how to grapple. Once you put the gloves on and you get in the ring, it's a little bit different,
I love that. That's awesome.
So yeah, that's what I've got going on. And then, I don't know if I told you too, I'm not drinking or anything for the next 75 days, right? I'm doing the 75 hard. So okay. Currently working on just working out, dropping body fat, just kind of dialing in. So focusing on business and getting all that stuff squared away. So
yeah. I mean, you've never been much of a drinker in the first place, but have you noticed any differences since you started it?
So I started on December 28th or something. So before the new year, because everybody fucking waits for the new year to start a goal, which I think is stupid. So I noticed anything? So part of 75 hard you have to do before and after. You have to do progress photos daily as well. So I have been doing that, and I'm starting to I feel like what happens is you kind of get going with life. And when I was younger, I loved looking at myself in the mirror. I wanted to always work on myself, become better, And as I've gotten older, I've just kind of gotten a pump, and I've started working out, and I haven't worried about how I look as much. And now that I'm actually like daily monitoring like how I look a little bit differently, it's, how's it? I've actually noticed a little bit of like I can see a little bit of, inflammation leaving my body again and body fat dropping just a little bit. So it's cool to like when you actually focus on something, you can actually see what's going on where we just work out, we just go for a run, but we're not really looking to see if anything's improving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's exciting, man. I mean, that's something I agree with you about waiting. People shouldn't wait till the New Year's and whatnot too. But I do love the concept of New Year's. I know a lot of people don't stick with it, but I love the whole idea around the holiday of like evaluating the previous
Yeah.
year and just going, hey, what's something I want to do better and what do I want to change moving
Yeah.
forward, right? And like even though yeah, a lot of people don't stick with it, but I love that fresh start mentality around the holiday. I think that's a really cool thing. So, but good for you. That's exciting that you're doing that.
Yeah. And I would like to preface too, I love like the new year, new chapter, like 2025 is gone, 26 is here. I just don't like when people are like the first week of December, they're like, oh, I'm going to wait till, January 1st, I'm going to start doing
Sure,
this thing. It's like if you have
sure.
something in your mind that you want to go out and accomplish, like don't wait, just start tomorrow,
Mhm,
don't waste the precious time that you have is kind of where my mindset's at. So,
mhm.
but anyways, so today I've got Jacob Colburn on here. The goal of our podcast today. So for those of you listening, Jacob and I we met probably in 2018 or I would assume 2018 would have been or end of
Yeah,
2017.
around there. 2017, I think it was after 2017.
So Jacob, I can remember it. In my I was like sitting in our dining room. I think we were playing cards like maybe around the holidays, maybe like Thanksgiving or I don't know, sometime in like the fall, I would imagine it was. And I got a message from this guy named Jacob Colburn on Facebook. And we started talking, and it sounds like he wants to open a gym. And so I was like, hey, at the time I was selling used equipment, and I was like, hey, mom, I got another person who wants to like buy gym equipment, like that was. So I'm sitting there, we're playing these games, and I remember seeing Jacob's name on my phone and started talking to you, and we ended up, obviously connecting, and Jacob was actually my first large equipment sale. And for those of you listening, my large equipment sale, I think it was like 8 grand or something, right? It was like the check that you had given me once like we got everything approved and you got a bunch of stuff. So when I first started working with Jacob, I got him a bunch of stuff. He paid like he bought some stuff, but then we actually worked out a little bit of a bigger deal at the time, and that was like, I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, for you, I feel like it was a big deal. For me, it was a big deal. It was an $8,000 check, and I actually have a picture of it in my phone, so I could go back and figure out what that date was because I was like, look, we've got a big payment from somebody for gym equipment or whatever. So, anyways, I had started, and I'm just trying to give a little bit of background here, and then we're obviously jumping into you, Jacob. So I had started my studio maybe a couple months before Jacob, although mine wasn't much of a studio. It was more of like a place for me and my friends to hang out and work out at. And Jacob was going like balls to the wall, signing a big lease in Oshkosh. Like he was the complete opposite of me. I'm more of like a low overhead, low risk guy. And Jacob's like, I'm going to just jump into this thing and figure this out. So anyways, that's how our relationship started. That's how we met each other. Jacob and I have got plenty of stories. So to present day, Jacob and I are business partners at O Town Iron / Grizzly O Town in Oshkosh. And so today, it's not about my story. I really want to like dive into Jacob's story prior to us meeting. What his life was like before, why he got into fitness, why Oshkosh. Like I just kind of want to uncover your story a little bit more, and then we can talk a little bit more present day, our stories. Like for example, the time we took the 1982 down to Chicago and got our dumbbells right, just stuff like that. So. Before we jump the gun, so Jacob, thanks for coming on, and let's just start with like your background. Like, tell us about family, where you grew up, like, and let's get into like, fitness. I'd like to know what sports you did in high school too, because I always find that interesting. But tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my background, so I'm born and raised here in Oshkosh. I went to Oshkosh North High School. Was never particularly athletic, so I always did sports that didn't require athleticism. I tried doing basketball and football and stuff like freshman year, and I was just horrible at it. It was not my thing. So then I got into running my sophomore year, and I did cross country, and essentially cross country. It's just if you just don't stop running, you're fine. So if you're mentally tough, you're going to be good at it. You just don't stop running, right? So, and I was decent. I was pretty good at it. And I did track and I did the mile and stuff like that. And I just ran during the off season. But that was, kind of my high school thing. I was a skinny little 100-pound runner guy. And then, but like I said, it was just because you just work hard and you're going to be okay at it. So, that was my background there. I was always pretty good at school, so I always imagined I was like going to go to a great college and be a corporate sellout or something like that. That was always kind of my vision for myself throughout high school, is like wear button-up shirts every day and khakis and, be a finance bro or something. So I applied to UW Madison. That was really one of only two schools I applied to because I knew that's where I wanted to go. Got accepted there and went there freshman year and kind of got into that whole thing where I was like messing around trying to go to business school and went to classes. And the more I was getting into it, I kind of realized I was like not really stoked about like that path, I guess. A lot of it was due to kind of the culture around finance bros, I guess. I was around a lot of people that it was like they're at a networking event and they're just trying to beat you to talk to the guy that's there from JP Morgan or something. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't know. It just wasn't really for me. So then I started dabbling in some other stuff, political science, stuff like that, and just realized like, okay, this isn't, what am I going to do with political science besides go to law school, right? But at the time when I initially went to Madison, this kind of gets into where I got the gym idea. I started working out at MadTown Fitness. If anybody that is in the Madison area, I'm sure you've heard of it, but I loved working out there. I worked out, go wake up in the morning and go to class and I'd study. I had a job at the time, so I'd go be a server at a fine dining restaurant and I'd go work out and get home, study more, and go to bed. And that was just like that my entire college career for the most part. So anyways, but that kind of gets into when I got the idea for the gym, because I love MadTown Fitness. It was just like the most exciting culture there. I love going in there and it was like loud music and you could work out hard and it was like nothing I've ever experienced before. So I was like, this is so cool. And while I was working out there, I'd see, at the time there was two owners and one of the guys would come in. He like came in with a nice car. He had like a Charger or something. He was like the nicest guy in the world. And he was really built. I'm like, that guy's awesome. Like I want to be that guy, So that was kind of like my spark. I'm like, God, that'd be cool to like own a gym like that, right? So that's kind of where I started. Should I get into the gym part now, or do you want to talk about any of that, or where do you want me to go from here?
Yeah, let's keep diving into it. Let's why the gym and how'd that all come along?
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I was working out at MadTown. I just thought that was super cool. So every summer there's this thing in Oshkosh called Country USA. And essentially it's just a country music festival for a week. And my buddies and I in the summer would all come back to Oshkosh for that. So there's that week we'd all stay at my mom's house. This was between my sophomore and junior year of college. And I was enrolled in school for junior year. But we came back and my buddies and I would go, we'd work out at like the Y in the morning. And then we'd like play bags during the day and have some beers and then go and watch the concert at night. And we were kind of just joking around, but we were like, God, it'd be cool after we got done working out one of those days. Like, man, would it be cool if there's a gym that you could feel like you belong to, like you could work out how you want to work out and not be judged for it, And this isn't to talk down any of the existing gyms because they're all great and they have their own place and they fulfill a need in the market for people that like that sort of thing. If you have a family or something, the Y is really great, the family plans and stuff like that, or Planet makes it not intimidating for new people. So I'm not talking smack on that, but it wasn't something that I was really excited or we were really excited to go to. So we got this idea while we were drinking some beers, and my buddy's like, what would we call our gym if we were to start a gym? And one of my buddies goes, O-Town something, like O-Town Fitness or something. Like, oh, it's got to be harder than that. Like And my other buddy said, O Town Iron. I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that. I love that name. And I just got obsessed with that idea. It just kind of took over my brain like a disease. And then throughout that whole week, I just started looking up like commercial properties and kind of putting together a business plan. I just like got obsessed with this idea of opening this gym in Oshkosh. I'm like, that's such this. There's enough people where this business model could be sustainable in the market, and I'm like, God, that's just such a neat thing. So I couldn't shake it. So after Country USA, I was I signed a lease in Madison. I was enrolled in school, but I was really interested in moving forward with pursuing this. So I started putting together a business plan. And at the time, I mean, you're always learning, but I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never worked in a gym before. I didn't want to be a personal trainer, but I just loved the idea of having this gym that could be exciting to go to, that people could feel like they're part of something, right? So there was a consultant that worked for the restaurant I was working at. I was working at this fine dining restaurant right on the square in Madison called Rare Steakhouse. There's a consultant that opens restaurants all along the East Coast and stuff like that. And I talked to him like, hey, his name's Steve, and I still talk to him regularly to this day. Like, I got this idea to open up a gym in my hometown, look at these buildings. Like, would you mind looking at my business plan? Just giving me some tips. He goes, absolutely. Meet me in my office on Friday. So I'm like, okay. So I show up and I'm like, business plan wasn't done. It was kind of a mess. He's like, all right, well, have the business plan done by Monday. I'm like, Steve, I need a couple weeks yet. Like, I'm not even close. He's like, no, Monday. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I was always kind of like scared of this guy because he's like my boss and he's like this hotshot businessman, whatever. So I just like cranked it out. It wasn't very good, but it was something. And then he kind of took me under his wing, and we looked at some properties, and he taught me, hey, here's how do you negotiate with the landlord type thing, things you can't really learn from Googling it and stuff like that. So he just kind of like helped me, hey, when you're going to a bank, this is what you need to do. Like, you need to be buttoned up. You can't go with the half-assed financials. Like, you need to have good projections. You need to come ready to go, do your background research, and kind of just started mentoring me in that way. So throughout that summer, I would drive back to Oshkosh. Like I said, I was still living in Madison, but I'd drive back and meet with banks and drive back and work in Madison at night. Got denied by every bank in Oshkosh you could probably name because I was 20 years old trying to get a loan to open a gym that I had no business doing. But that was a really good process because I was just so relentless and strong-headed that like, I'm going to figure this out. So each time I got rejected, it was just like, all right, let's go back to the whiteboard. What do we got to do? What do we got to improve? It was just hardening up and tightening things up and making it good. So anyways, so finally I get rejected by this bank, and they're like, listen, we can't help you. But there's this place, it's a nonprofit economic development corporation. It's actually a women's group that they referred me to. And I'm like, a women's group? Like, I'm a white guy. Like, this group specializes in like, they'll fund higher risk businesses. They have a higher interest rate, but it's for the purpose of developing the economy and stuff like that. But they predominantly focus on like women or like minorities and stuff like that. So I'm like, there's no chance they're going to give me money. But anyway, I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt to try. So I started working with them and went through that process. And it was a process. I started kind of schmoozing them. I'd find out all their luncheons, and I'd drive to Milwaukee and just show up. And before I got approved, and just started kind of working that and developing relationships and trying to, move forward there. And they loved me. I made a lot of friends in that process, which was kind of fun. But anyways, as we're going through this, before I got approved for it, school is coming up. So I did get approved for the loan, and I started negotiating with this landlord to get a property. Wasn't quite approved, didn't sign the lease, but I was like, I need to go figure out if I'm going to school next week or not. So I just sat down and talked to my mentor, Steve. I'm like, Steve, what do I do? What would you recommend? He's like, well, Jacob, he's like, only you can answer that question. He's like, you got to go with your gut, though. Like, take everything into consideration. You might not be able to explain your decision, but whatever your gut's telling you, like, trust that. Like, all right. So I did. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, but I feel like I gotta do this gym thing. So at the time when my coworkers needed a place to live, so I'm like, great, you could co-sign on my lease. And I hadn't paid my tuition yet. So I'm like, screw it, I'm going to do it. So I dropped out of school. She took over my lease. My buddy just happened to move into a 2-bedroom apartment in Oshkosh and had an open room. So I'm like, great, I'll move in with him. I moved back. But after I did all this, like I said, no money yet, no building. And I drop out of school. And then all of a sudden, I lose the financing and I lose the building. So everything, like my world just went to shit. I was so upset. And I'm like freaking out. And I call Steve one day and I'm like, Steve, like, I don't know what to do. I just dropped out of school and now I don't have money. I don't have a building. Like, I'm screwed. He's like, Jacob, I got some great advice for you. I'm like, please, because I need something right now. Like, I'm about to go jump off a bridge. I'm freaking out, you know. But he's like, go have a beer and then wake up tomorrow and do it again. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, he's like, no, I'm dead serious. He's like, just keep pursuing it. Everything's going to be fine. Just keep at it. So that's what I did. I went out and I had a couple beers. I'm like, okay, we'll just wake up tomorrow and just keep trying. And then it ended up turning out where I found a different landlord that was new. He bought out this huge complex, whatever. And there was this old office building that was like a political call center. You get like spam calls. It's the Republican Party trying to get money from you and stuff like that. But it was like cubicles and whatever. And my real estate agent at the time, he was like, "Hey, listen, I think this is a good opportunity for you, but like this is one shot at this. You need to come in, buttoned up, have your business plan ready." And because I got rejected by all banks and all this stuff, like I had a really strong business plan, but I was high risk, right? So I went in, I started talking with this landlord. I'm like, this is great, but like this is an office. I need it to be a gym. Like I need locker rooms, I need flooring, rubber floors, I need, these drop ceilings out of here. And went, okay. And he looked over the business plan. And then he emailed me and went, hey, I'll make you do a gym for you. Just sign this long of a lease and I'll do the renovations. So I'm like, all right, this is awesome, but he kind of needed to know by a certain point. And again, I wasn't fully approved for the loan yet, but I found this financial institution. I'm working with them, and it's a longer process with them because I think they're technically a nonprofit. So it's not like a bank where it's expedited. It takes a couple months to get approved for something like this. But I'm pretty long in the process, and I'm talking to my loan officer. I'm like, hey, I got to know, like, do you think I'm going to get approved for this or not? And he's like, Jacob, I've been doing this a while. I really think you're going to get it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to sign this lease, and I'm just hoping this is going to work out. But again, it was like gut feeling, totally not something I would ever do again. But so I signed this lease, and he starts doing the build out. And then I ended up getting approved. And at that time, that's when I had met you. I started looking for equipment. And again, it's kind of all the puzzle pieces just fell together. It's just chaos of just random stuff, right? I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to get equipment. I don't know where I'm going to get money. I don't know where I'm going to get a building, but I just knew I was going to find it, right? And then I found you at the time. Before that, I was looking at like residential equipment. I had no idea what I was looking at. And I met you, and you're like, no, I've got you. Met through Facebook. You're about the same age as me. We're both young, ambitious, and you're like, I'll sell you every piece of equipment you need. So I'm like, great, got my equipment guy. Money got approved, lease is going, and then it all just kind of came together. Um, so that's the kind of my story. I kind of rambled for a while there. I don't know if there's something else you wanted me to touch on or anything like that, but that's kind of my um, startup story, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to perseverance, like just keeping your head down and willingness to keep trying and keep trying. I don't think that you and I have even really. I know most of the story and the pieces and the parts and this guy, but I haven't heard you say it all at once. So no, it's an inspiring story. I mean, it is. What was it like when all of those things were happening for you? I mean, you're young, and so it's a lot different when you're young and when you're. I'm not saying that we're not young now, but it's different now when you can kind of have a projected outcome or you kind of know what might happen. Where then you were young, really didn't know anything, and like didn't know what was going to happen. You're just trusting your gut, which obviously when you're younger, you're more willing to take risk. What was it like just like sleeping at night for you? You know what I mean? Like, did you have like, do you remember what it was like? Was it tough sleeping? Was it, you know what I mean? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, something people never talk about when you become an entrepreneur, and maybe it's because I did it in such a high risk way, but they don't talk about taking care of your mental health when you're going through that process, which is so incredibly important because, yeah, there was a lot of not no sleep nights, And again, I was just so ambitious where if I just woke up, like I didn't fight it, I just would work on something. And it would be stuff I didn't need to work on. I'd start putting together the playlist for the gym, which is like not a priority, but I just did it because that's what I decided to do, right? But yeah, super, super stressful. And thankfully, my roommate at the time, he was really big into like mindfulness and meditation, this and that, which was honestly kind of the perfect thing I needed because it was so stressful going through that stuff when you're like not knowing what's going to happen, all these just chaos, right? So you really got to like work on being mindful and then look. I mean, it's a learning experience at the end of the day. I mean, I also kind of I was in a very unique position too because just prior to that, my dad had passed away. So I was kind of also in this mentality of like life is short and you could die tomorrow, right? So there, that was kind of also in my mind. Like even if this fails, it's like I can just go back to school, right? It's really not like I'm gonna die. So I had this weird perspective that like, you know what, like try it and just give it every single thing you got, and you learn so much about yourself in that process. It's a beautiful process. I've learned more about myself through that process than anything else in my life. But yeah, very stressful to answer your question.
I wanted to ask too, like, and if you were willing to talk about it, but like, what kind of impact your dad's passing had on you and your decisions and like your ability to do what you've done, and also kind of like how that plays an effect on things you maybe still do today, because I know there's people out there that,
Yeah,
people have asked me before, like how to handle loss, and that's not the episode we're doing here, but what kind of impact, like, if you could explain a little bit more on that, like, did that have with you, and
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
No, that's a great question. I think my mentality with whenever something bad happens to you is like there's always something beautiful or something you can learn from it, and that's helped me with dealing with loss like that, or when big problems happen with the gym, with the business, right? Whatever problem comes up, I'm not might be stressed, but it's like kind of exciting because I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get through this one? It's this new opportunity to learn something about how I'm gonna do this and to learn something about myself. So um, I look at problems with a very optimistic outlook, right? Kind of get excited about it in a sense. I mean, my dad's loss definitely was one of those things where if that wouldn't have happened, I probably wouldn't have made those decisions because, like I said, it did give me a different perspective of like, you know, you could die. Like he was like 50 or 52, something like that when he died. So he's relatively young. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was huge. I mean, it was definitely more back then. And now it's like, I'm not as, I don't know, risky or whatever with my decision making process. But yeah, did that answer your question or did I get off track there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not something that I've gone through, so I was just curious, in the beginning, like you said, I mean, it allowed you to do something you might not have done because of the situation and I like how you're explaining it, like, and obviously you're not saying a situation like that and being optimistic about it, but when there's a hard situation in front of you, you have a choice to dwell on it, to, let it, I mean, drag you down, or allow you to, like you said, look at it as an opportunity, right? When a problem hits my desk, it's not a problem. It's how can I find this? It's like looking for the solution, not just focusing on the problem, right? Like it's just like a framework, a mindset thing. So, no, I think I've got what you're saying. So let's talk about. So just we don't have to dive too deep because we could probably spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours talking about this. But so now you're in this little spot in Oshkosh, which I'm familiar with. How many square feet do we have there?
Our current spot or the old spot?
The old spot. We're just going from that point on. So how many square feet?
4,000.
4,000. That includes the locker room
Yeah,
space or no?
that included locker rooms. Yeah,
So not a big space by any means, but how many years were you in that area, in that location?
think it was only like two.
And how I think this is fine, it's up to you, but how long of a lease did we have there? What was do you remember the original lease agreement was? 4 years,
I
5 years?
can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe 4 years or something like that.
Okay. So I want to put this into perspective with like Jacob's risk taking at his young age, and I'm very low risk. Like I said, Jacob not so much, and he was just kind of going with the flow. And so you had a 4-year lease. Let's just say it was a 4-year lease. We were there for 2 years. Um, you decided it was time to get out of that space. Like, let's just talk about that process a little bit, and then let's get to like this new facility. Then we could talk about you and I working together again. Kind of the Gold's Gym situation, right? Like, let's go from little space, getting out of the lease, maybe a little bit of what that looked like and how it was paying. You know what I mean? Let's just talk like that transition there.
Yeah. So, good question. That was another big learning experience too, because we're at a point with that gym where we, I went a little too hard when I first opened that facility. I went a little too hard on the, hey, we're going to be a hardcore gym approach, where I started making posters and stuff that said like Justin Bieber's not on our playlist and stuff like that, right? Just like really pushing the we're a hardcore, intense gym, metal music when you walk in the door, black walls, like really intense. People that liked that loved it, and we got a couple hundred members really pretty quick. But we learned real quick that okay, this is not sustainable in this market. We can't, grow past a certain point because you'd have a guy and a girl walk in, and the guy would like light up, and the girl would just turn around and leave. She's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, this is a problem, right? So I started pivoting, trying to make it more, not straying from the people that kind of gave us the foundation, not saying like, oh, you can't work out like this or whatever, but trying to open it up so every more people could feel welcome, like they're not so intimidated by it, right? Allowing people to work out how they want to work out, but um, creating a creating an accepting community, and that was kind of what I realized like needed to pivot, right? Is how do we, instead of telling people you can't lift heavy, how do we create a community that makes people feel accepted, right? And that was kind of what I was trying to do. So and at the time, Planet Fitness was in this 10,600 square foot facility on the north side of town. They just moved out. I got approached by the sales rep over there, and he's like, "Hey, are you thinking about upgrading your facility?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, perfect timing because I'm trying to rebrand and do all these things, and for some reason, I thought a good idea would be to double my square footage and increase my cost by twice the amount when, whatever. So I started negotiating with that guy and we negotiated a pretty good deal there. And then at that time, you had reached out to me because there was a Gold Gym that went out of business in Waukesha. You're like, hey, I'm getting all this equipment. Like, do you have any interest in it? I'm like, yeah, I'm about to sign a lease for this place. Absolutely. And so you and I worked that out, and we got this Matrix G7 circuit, I think it was, and like
Is
all
it
this,
Matrix G3?
the G3, yeah, it's the G3. Um, but so, anyways, we kind of split that up, and you had worked with me on have like a lease agreement for the equipment and stuff. So we went there, got a bunch of Penske trucks, and loaded up, and um, signed the lease for the new spot. And then I was trying to get out of my old lease, and again, that was a big learning opportunity for me as well. Because what I learned from that is the landlord at the end of the day, he just, I'm not going to get too deep in the details of it, but he was annoyed because he's like, hey, I don't care if you're leaving, but like, I built this place out for you. Like, I spent a lot of money and like, I got to get paid here. Right. And then we are kind of going back and forth. I'm like, I get it, but I need to grow and I need to, you know, rebrand and do all these things. And long story short, at the end of the day, what I learned is like, just the dude just wanted better communication from me. I wasn't very good throughout that process of just being like, hey, here's what I can do. Like, how do we make this work so you get your money? Right. Um, so, anyways, everything ended up working out. And then we moved over and kind of started going from there. I think I kind of started rambling, but should I, what up? Did I answer the question or do you want me to
Yeah,
talk
no,
in a
no.
particular
Now,
year?
what year are we? What year is it when we move into this new facility?
2020. When did COVID start?
March of 2020.
2020? Yeah, it was probably like 2020, maybe just the end of 2019. I don't remember the exact opening date, but I remember signing a lease for a new facility and being open for like 3 months, and then COVID happened. We had to shut down, which was horrible.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. Like I said, we just signed this lease. At the time, you and I had kind of started talking about potentially partnering together and whatnot because we were doing this equipment lease. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. Part of it at the time for me was like the mentality of I can make this work, right? To be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to have this like dichotomy of like nothing's going to make me fail. I can make this work. I got this, but also the humility to go, I'm weak in these areas. We need to fix it, right? Um, so part of it, like you're like, hey, we should partner together and do this. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is the right time and this and that, whatever. We started having that conversation. I moved in this spot. COVID happened. We had to shut down for a month and a half or something. We were very creative in that process. We actually rented our equipment to people to take home and whatever, just to get some kind of cash flow coming in when we couldn't be open. Um, and then, yeah, and then we opened back up and we ended up being okay. And that wasn't until a year and a half ago, maybe, that you and I revisited the partnership conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'd like to, you and I, one of my, when I was younger than I am now, I was wanting to have a facility in Oshkosh at some point. That was like my thought, right? Then I met you and I was like, well, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to like help sell you and set you up and then like also try to be a competitor. Like that's just not, who I am. And so yeah, I would like to say like you and I several times talked about potential partnership, how could it work, what does it look like? But you and I also had a lot of maturing and growing up to do and like you said, when you're a business owner, you kind of want to figure it out on your own. You don't want to give away like what I always would tell you. Like I know it's your baby, and I know like I'm not begging you for your business. I just think that we could do something greater together, right? Like that
mhm.
was what I thought. But there was individual areas that you and I needed to grow as leaders, as individuals, as business owners, like all of those things. And again, like the maturity aspect, I think that was a big thing too. So yeah, we touched base about a year and a half ago, and then it took us a couple months, I think, to like kind of get our partnership agreement finalized. But we did everything legit. We intend on kind of like a rebrand and working to, it's a constant thing we're always working on between Grizzly and O-Town and how can we be more alike and do more big things. But um, so yeah, I mean that's the story of Jacob for the most part. I think there's a lot of stories and like details we could get into, like how hard really was COVID and how did you make it through like but I think we could save those for like future episodes, like really dive into some of like I just think that'd be interesting, talk about some of the actual stories. Um so let's talk a little bit about I mean, do you have any one-off story like from you and I, or like I said, like the Chicago story was always funny with the dumbbells and going down there. Um,
Yeah,
but do you have any like a one-off story that like you want to talk about or something that like I don't know, a little reminiscing here while we've got each other?
dude. I think I mean there's a lot of funny ones of like figuring it out, right? Like just looking back at how efficient we are with stuff now. If we want to move a gym, we could move a whole gym in a couple days, right? And back then it was like just kind of using the tools that we had, like you said, going to Chicago, picking up dumbbells, ruining your dually because we loaded too much in the back of your dually, and then it rubbed on your tires, and now you're like, yeah, well, you're this deal I just cut you just cost me a ton of money because I have to buy all these new tires. I'm like, oh, sorry, dude, whatever, just stupid stuff like that. But um, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think just the whole process of just seeing that progression of us just like using what we had and it just being so inefficient, just not a good way to do it. And then like seeing how we've just grown in those areas. And now you're at the point where like moving to gym and there's semis and a whole crew of guys and it's like just, no problem. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I agree with
I
you. I
just think
mean,
that whole thing. I mean,
you don't really know what you don't know until you know. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's back then we felt like we were efficient. Back then, in 2020 we would have looked at it back like, oh, we've been doing this since 2018. Like we know it. You know what I mean? Like that was the attitude. Now we're actually to a point where it's like we know what the hell we're doing. But back then it was still like, oh, we're better than ever. You just have that attitude. So I would like to mention too. So Jacob and I, prior to partnering, I mean, if we talk about our relationship as a whole, we met each other, we got the gym set up. We had a time where you and I didn't really connect a whole lot. You were busy being young and figuring out your business. I was busy, we're again trying to just figure our shit out. We reconnected over the Gold's Gym thing, and then kind of from that point on, I'm not 2020, but or Gold's Gym would have been, yeah, like 2019. There, I would say probably like 2021, 2022, 2022. You started kind of working with us as a part-time thing, I would say, or something. Like, I think the last couple years you've been on and off helping us. So Jacob and I work together on O-Town, but Jacob also comes over and helps Priority Fitness, our fitness equipment install company, and has become a proficient, equipment mover, installer, extractor, right? Like, so Jacob does help us, and it's kind of like a bigger vision for the entirety of the company, is that we all kind of work together and just make things happen. So we were doing that quite a bit before the partnership, and then I said, hey, why don't we just do this partnership thing or whatever? And fast forward to now, we've been doing it for a year and a half, and we've definitely progressed in areas. We've definitely, I would say, worked a lot on leadership and our communications and our, like our relationship. I think it's improved a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years. And we've got a big vision for the next couple of years for Oshkosh. We want to make it an amazing facility. I don't want to say exactly what we want to do, because then people will mention that we mentioned it once, and then it's like a big fucking deal when it's slightly different. I get myself in trouble a lot by saying too much. But yeah, so what is business like today for you comparative to like when you started? You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about like, like you said, we kind of just used to make things work, but now you've got a facility, you've got a team that you can trust, you've got a team, that you count on, and you've probably got the best team you've ever had right now, right? Because you've been working on it for so long. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of telling me what it's like, in the day of Jacob and the team that you've got now, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's always. I agree with you. I think I've got the strongest team I ever have, and they are talented and they've got their education, this and that. But it's not just because of that. It's because we've developed into that, right? And throughout the journey of being a leader, it's always been kind of like correcting, overcorrecting, and just finding where that needs to be. Because sometimes give people too much leash and I wouldn't be as on top of things as I needed to be, right? And then I'd overcorrect and then over micromanaging, if you would, or just getting too worrying about stuff that I shouldn't be and not developing them, right? So it's kind of like just finding what that middle ground needs to be. I'd never been a leader. I'd never managed people or anything like that, so I didn't really know what that means. But now my day to day is much more developing the people, right? Our operations are pretty solid. There's always areas to grow, but we operate really well, and that's the team. Like the fitness training department, like Ethan does an amazing job at running that and making sure everyone's having an amazing experience, and trainers are scheduled and sessions are being filled and this and that. Front desk wise, same kind of thing. We got cleaning procedures and this and that. But now my role has been a lot more like, okay, how do I develop the people, right? And then come with these new ideas. Hey, we're going to use AI in our marketing systems to do a client win back campaign and, implement that stuff and then go, okay, team, let's roll with it and kind of move forward, and setting goals and getting everyone aligned with the vision and meeting with everyone going, okay, what are your personal goals for your long term, just in your life? You want to buy a house? You want to be the best trainer in Oshkosh? What do you want to do? And then how does that align with what we're trying to do? And then get everyone on board with that and get them on board with the mission and kind of push things forward. So my stuff is as much operationally. If it is like my role, if I'm doing something operationally, it's how can we make this more efficient or how can we do this better? But I'm not working the front desk. I'm not training clients, doing that kind of stuff as much. It's more so what can we do to add revenue, be creative in that aspect, or how can we operate a little bit more efficiently, or what do we need to do moving forward? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got two more questions I'd like to ask you, and then I can we can hop off here. But what is your current Like, what do you, this might be a two-part question for number one. Like, what do you want Grizzly O or O-Town Iron to be known for? Slash,
Mm.
like, what is the vision of O-Town? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want people to say about O-Town? And then also, what do you want O-Town to be, you know, kind of known for, but also in the next 5 years? You know what I mean? Like, without getting too specific, like, what is your, yeah, the vision of O-Town and the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, this is kind of a generic statement, but I want to be the best, right? I want us to be the best gym. I want us to have a culture of the best trainers, people that genuinely care. Everyone comes in, you feel this sense of like people love being here, right? Whether you're new, you're, you know, rookie with working out, you're bodybuilder, you're overweight, you're whatever. Like you come in, you feel like people care about you, and we have the best equipment, the biggest facility. We've got the best trainers. We have this awesome facility with people that really give a shit, right? I love having character in the gym. I love coming in and having interactions with real people that care about you. I never ever want to get to if we even as we keep franchising with Grizzly, um, I don't want to feel like a franchise, and I think you and I are kind of on board with each other. Each location has its own unique identity in this own thing, where it's not mellow, it's not bland. Like each location has its own reflection of the market that it's in, the city, right? I love that. I love having character in a gym, and I love having people belong to something and have the best of the best. Um, does that answer your question? So as we kind of move forward, that's what I always think about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you want O-Town to be known for. What do you want to see in 3 to 5 years for O-Town? Like, again, without specifics, like, is there anything, I mean, we want more space. We want a bigger facility. Like, we want to be able to be the place in Oshkosh where people feel comfortable but can get the workout and, like, everything you just touched on. So is there anything else in specific that you would like to see in the next 3 to 5 years for, like, the future of O-Town? You know what I mean? Other than
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
space.
I mean, like you just said, I would love to have double the square footage of what we currently got, right? I would love to have more trainers doing semi-private and personal training with clients and have its own area for that. That's very exclusive, and you come in, you get that attention. I'd love to have very specialized training programs with stretch therapy and we already do nutrition coaching, but kind of double down on that and have very specific things that we specialize in and just big space, lots of equipment. That's where I see us going. I that really gets me excited.
Fair enough. Well, my last question for you, if Jacob could tell his younger self, if you could talk to 18-year-old Jacob, what would you say? Whether it's one sentence, say as much as you want. What would Jacob now say to 18-year-old Jacob just graduated high school, about what your future might hold or what direction, keep your head down, what is the thought there?
Yeah, I think there's so many things I could say, but the immediate one that comes to mind is um, delay gratitude or like play the long game. I think most of the mistakes that I've made are I'm trying to get money right now, or I'm trying to do something right now, right? And I'm not thinking long term, like do the things now that might not benefit me at this moment, but it's going to in a year, 2 years, 3 years. So play the long game is probably what I would remind myself. I think a lot of mistakes I've made were not having that in mind and going, I'll do this, but I'll figure it out later, right? No, don't think about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. What's gonna reap reap the fruits of your labor, or whatever that phrase is. Um, that's probably what I would say.
Love it. I love it. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I really enjoyed having you on. I thank you for coming on and telling us a little bit about your story. I would love to in the future, like I said, maybe you and I can get together and just write down a handful of stories between the two of us, between the startup of your business. I do like to talk about general business on this podcast as well, and just kind of like talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and the hardships and, employees and all that. So Maybe at some point in the future, we can get you back on, maybe for an in-person podcast when I get our studio done. But again, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. This is fun.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you soon.